restore the strength of the American military. There's much work that we have to do to look at how we can sustain the military, make it mighty again so that we can confront the threats that we face, whether it's North Korea, Iran, threats that we potentially face from China or Russia, and then of course the spread of ISIS and global terrorism around the world in other countries and right here at home in the United States. So those are significant issues that I am working on. I'm also very focused on supporting our veteran population. I want to be the best congressman that our veterans have ever had in this district. So I'm proud to serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee. I chaired the Veterans Affairs Committee in the Indiana State Senate. So to have the opportunity to work on those issues at the federal level is a significant opportunity that I have as well. And we've been focused on a number of issues related to that, from expanding the CHOICE Act. I was proud that our president signed the CHOICE reauthorization a couple of days ago. I want to thank you. He deserves a round of applause for that. Whether you agree with him on anything else or not, he deserves your credit for reauthorizing the CHOICE program to make it easier for veterans to find other choices and give them more flexibility on the type of health care that they choose, whether at the VA or in the private sector market. So I'm grateful for that piece of legislation. I've introduced a couple of bills in the Congress already related to veterans issues. One is a piece of legislation that's very similar to the work that I did at the State House related to the transport of veteran remains and allowing the VA to pay for the transportation of the remains of veterans to state or tribal cemeteries, which they currently are unable to do that. And while that might not impact very many constituents in our district, I think it's important related to the dignity of how we care for and take care of our veterans. So I'm proud that piece of legislation had a hearing a couple of weeks ago. I also have another piece of legislation that would take a pilot program that currently exists that is related to counselors on college campuses who work with student veterans on college campuses to help them navigate GI Bill benefits and help them with the issues that they have of going from active duty military to a college campus, and some of the issues that they have with dealing with a new lifestyle and dealing with some of the complications of that transition from the military to being on a college campus and transitioning into their civilian life. So those are the types of issues that I've worked on. Again, I'm eager to hear from you. We have a couple of microphones. We had a malfunction of one of the microphones, so I will stand behind the podium, and Chris in the back will carry the microphone around from you. You can ask questions. You can register your feedback. You don't have to ask a question if you don't want to. You can give me your feedback on some of the important issues of the day. I'm happy to answer your questions, but if you just want to make a statement or give your feedback, you can do that as well. We have some special guests with us today, but first and foremost, I want to thank Adams Woodcrest for hosting us in this great facility. We're grateful to you, Adams Woodcrest, for hosting us and for your residents to have the opportunity to come and to have a dialogue with me as well. Also, we have Commissioner Doug Bauman in the back. I appreciate your friendship. Brent Lehman, the superintendent of North Adams Community School, and Craig Koshow. Did I say that right or wrong?
Yeah, it's fine.
That's fine. That means I said it wrong. The Decatur Chamber of Commerce, thank you for. This is a community that I always enjoy visiting. This week and last week, we were back in our districts. I traveled to Eastern Europe last week to visit with some of our military bases and learn more about some of our issues abroad. And then this week, I've been on the road every day with dozens of meetings, meeting with constituents in the district. So I'm grateful for these opportunities. So with that, I'll stand behind the podium, and Chris, if you want to take the microphone, and we will do our best to interact with as many of you as we can.
Okay, I'm from Fort Wayne, and I'm probably concerned a lot of things, but particularly now the redistricting issues, the gerrymandering has become incredibly complex and both parties have done it, so I would hope this is a bipartisan issue. What are your thoughts and how do you see addressing it? And I just would say that just now we heard Texas was cited for having illegally discriminated against blacks by dividing their votes, so I think it's something you can't ignore. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, thank you. The question is about redistricting reform, and I know when I served in the Indiana State Senate, that was a frequent discussion that we had at the State House. We're in Decatur, so Senator Travis Holdman and Representative Lehman are your state legislators. Today is their last day of the 2017 General Assembly, and I know that was one of the issues that they took up early in the legislative session was creating a redistricting commission that would look into how to make the process work better and make it more fair and try to take some of the politics out of how the districts are drawn. At the federal level, we don't draw the districts. That is constitutionally, that is a provision of state government, as it should be. And that's where I would encourage you to reach out to Senator Holdman and Representative Lehman. I don't know, because I've been in Washington, I don't know what the status of that legislation was at the State House. It might not have moved to today, the final day. I see some head shaking no. So that legislation died. So that's an opportunity for you when your state legislators come home after they sine die today. That's an opportunity for you to reach out to Matt and Travis and talk about the importance of redistricting issues.
Hi, Congressman Banks. I'm Heather Clark from Leo, Indiana. I voted for you, but absolutely could not vote for President Trump. My question for you is, at what point, where is your line in the sand? At what point will your morals and your responsibility to us as your Hoosier constituents outweigh party ties? At what point would you stand up and call for President Trump's impeachment?
Yes. Woo! Agree.
The president is 2 months on the job, and I haven't seen anything yet that would cause me to call for.
Really?
Are you kidding?
So.
What about foreign and
He was elected to the office. I am hopeful and optimistic that this president will work with the Congress to move this country forward. We have an opportunity in this moment to do that, from restoring the strength of the American military to addressing the economic issues that we face and growing this economy. That's what I'm a member of Congress. That's what I'm focused on, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that the president will work with us to do that.
Hello, my name is Victoria Lamont, and I'm a resident of Fort Wayne, Oakland. So to address just the last issue, I would like you to spearhead investigation into the collusion between Russia and the Trump administration. That's just one thing. I'm concerned about the lies that we're hearing from Donald Trump, putting out through the media that we've got an armada going. No, he is deceiving us at every single opportunity. So here's the other thing. My initial cause here was health care. I would like you to watch a video called Fix It. Have you heard of the video?
No, I haven't. Tell me about it.
Okay, Fix It talks about all of the opportunities that our medical community would like our government to enact to make a single-payer system. If we can have Medicare negotiate down costs, 2/3 down or 1/3 to pay for people on Medicare, then certainly that is something that we can have everybody. And when you look at the doctors that are supportive of this, some doctors are having 1/3 of their staff to just deal with insurance issues. There are ways to solve this that are not involving the insurance companies. The insurance people in dealing with healthcare can deal with auto insurance or house insurance or something. They're not going to lose their job, but we need a single payer system.
Yes.
I will watch Fix It.
Thank you.
Sorry. bumpy there from here.
I'm from Fort Wayne, and I'm concerned because family planning is a very important part of basic health care and for women and for being able to be surviving and helping your children thrive. What I see is that you've supported some bills that make it so that a woman who has insurance that is covered from federal funding wouldn't be able to go to the provider that she would prefer with the defunding of Planned Parenthood and other efforts. I don't think people are opposed. I don't understand why you would support something that most people oppose.
Well, is that your question? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your question. I did run, when I ran for this office, I ran on a platform, on a pro-life platform. I don't believe that the taxpayers should fund abortion.
They don't.
And it is my position, and will continue to be my position when I'm in Congress, that I would vote against efforts that would require the taxpayers to fund abortion. Therefore, I will continue to support efforts that would prevent tax dollars from going toward abortion providers. That's my position. That's the platform I ran on.
Congressman Banks, Doug Bauman, Adams County, Geneva. I sincerely appreciate you holding this forum. Congressman Banks and I have served on a couple of committees in Northeast Indiana, so we know each other fairly well. I would like for you to take this, first of all, I sincerely appreciate his involvement on the committees that he's serving with veterans. Are there veterans here? If you are, please stand up. Okay. Good. We appreciate that. I am going to ask Congressman Banks. I was a United States Marine in Vietnam. Was fortunate to get back. I was awarded 2 of these. I'm asking our congressman to take this back to Washington, put it on his desk or in a desk drawer as a reminder. Specifically, I would like to do this in memorial to a Sergeant Rodney Davis, Macon, Georgia, who on one September night, 1967, threw himself on a grenade, saved my life, was phenomenally awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest medal. Congressman Banks.
Commissioner, thank you. This means a great deal to me, and I will proudly display this on my desk in Washington as a memento of the important work that we do on behalf of our veterans. Thank you very much.
Yes, my name is John Filling. I'm also a Vietnam veteran, and I wanted to let you know that I've been having my medical service taken care of at the VA hospital in Fort Wayne, and I can't tell you what a wonderful job they're doing. The people are so nice, so generous, so complimentary. I know there's a lot of negative stuff going about the veterans and what kind of service they receive, but I want to let you know that the hospital in Fort Wayne is doing a wonderful job. I also came here for another reason, but I talked to a couple of your aides about it. I'm trying to get a passport now for 3 years. I've been born in this area, served in that service, and I can't get a passport. So they're going to help me right now. So just want to let you know that they took care of that already, or will be. So thank you.
Good, thank you. Let me address the issues about the VA, because you're right, we have a great facility in Fort Wayne. I've visited, I've spent time there, I've been able to get to know the leadership of our local facility, and I believe that they're doing everything they can to serve our veterans as well as they can in Northeast Indiana. Much of the issues that we have in the VA, though, is with the bureaucratic system that prevents so many of our veterans from ever getting to the point of healthcare delivery And that's why the Choice Act and other avenues that make the process easier for our veterans are important for us to support in Washington. So, and on your second note, one great part about the job that I have is the team that we have in our Fort Wayne District Office, who serves our veterans on more of a specific need basis whenever they have issues with a claim, or whenever they have issues getting to the point of getting the health care that they need and have some kind of a roadblock or hurdle in the process. We have privacy release forms that Derek Pilley, who signed most of you in, his team will have you sign that, and then that will give our office the ability to help individuals, whether it's getting a passport or getting your care from the VA, or Social Security issues, whatever the issues are. We have a dynamic team in our office with years of experience that are ready and willing to help our constituents. So thanks for bringing that up as well.
My name is Audrey Albright. I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Sir, while you had a great point about the VA and veterans, I feel the conversation was derailed. Per the Hyde Amendment, no federal tax dollars go towards abortion, ever. That has been the federal law of the land for many years. So defunding Planned Parenthood means you're defunding cancer screenings, STD testings.
Exactly. Yes.
We saw in Scott County, Mike Pence defunded the Planned Parenthood in Scott County, and guess what happened? Everyone got HIV. That's what happened. No one could get tested. Not everyone, but 200 cases of HIV because no one could get tested. No one could exchange their needles. No one could get the care they needed. And that's what we ask for when we want Planned Parenthood. Women should be able to get birth control and care for their families. If you are pro-life, you will support comprehensive sex ed. You will support birth control, condom, education. These are things that reduce unintended pregnancy. Planned Parenthood in 1 year prevents over 500,000 unintended pregnancies every year.
Yes.
That's important. That's not abortion, that's prevention. And that's what we need to work on.
Mike Pence redirected funds to women's care centers.
That's right.
He doesn't have the floor. Excuse me, that doesn't help the people that had HIV, sir. It doesn't.
Planned Parenthood that exist. And the efforts in Washington to defund Planned Parenthood, which I support and I will continue to support, would send those funds to other organizations who don't provide abortion, that would provide all of the services that you just
That's what his constituents want. That's what we want. We didn't ask the Fort Wayne people to come down here and derail this. This is Adams County. We didn't ask you to come down here.
Congressman Banks.
Congressman Banks. The woman in this room who pay taxes and do not support in defunding women health and preventive care. Can you stand up? If you pay taxes, can you stand up? Because you are paying his salary and he represents us. And he keeps saying to us that that's not what he ran on. You ran on something, sir, but you now represent us, and you work for us. So look at the woman in the room. It isn't just called veterans.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, we'll switch the subject here. Well, you may not say yay after I'm done. I have to read this, so I'll keep it short. My name is Roger McKnight, and I'm the president of PFLAG Fort Wayne. We represent the parents, family, and friends who focus on their families with lesbian, gay, and transgender children. In every classroom, there is an average of one LGBT student. In each neighborhood, there are 2 or 3 homes with an LGBT connection. They are important parts of our communities. When our family members are discriminated against, the suicide rate goes up, and 40% of the homeless youth have been rejected by their families. And I must add, hurtful laws. We have had laws that discriminate against our family members and fellow citizens. It hurts us, it hurts our children, and encourages those who, for whatever reason, do not understand to support their prejudices and extend hurtful behavior towards so many in our state and our country. But those families that unconditionally love and support their LGBT children are the happier families. And their kids are much more likely to be successful adults. Laws must support all members of these families.
Thank you.
Any comment about that?
I appreciate your feedback.
That's your
My name
comment.
is Elaine Fazaro. I'm from Fort Wayne. And I understand that repealing Obamacare has been a high priority for you for many years. And I see that you are planning, as soon as you go back to Washington, to take up the bill that most recently failed, attempting to repeal Obamacare. And I would be one of the first people to tell you that Obamacare has not been an entirely satisfactory law, and it does need a lot of work. But the bill that you have put forward that, in order to repeal Obamacare has been scored by the CBO and found to immediately throw 14 million people off of health care, and within 10 years it will throw 24 million people off of health care. And by research we know that for every million people who do not have access to health care, in any given year, about 1,000 of those people are going to die from treatable conditions because they had no way to access treatment for their conditions. And while repealing Obamacare is for you a high priority, what do you think is an appropriate number of people who should be exposed to unnecessary pain, suffering, and danger of death in order to accomplish this goal? I agree that changes need to be made, but the bill that you have up there in Congress right now, that is not it. And if you think that Obamacare has been an unpopular bill, you throw that many people out of their health care and you have seen nothing yet. So, when you go back to Washington, I want you to think very hard about how people are going to feel about losing their health care before you vote on this thing.
Okay, thank you for your feedback on that. I will think very hard about how I vote before I vote. And you're right, there were efforts before that never came to a vote. While we've been back in our districts, there have been ongoing discussions and negotiations with the White House and liberal, conservative, moderate members of Congress to try to come to an agreement. We'll see where that arrives next week when I go back to Washington. I will say, as far as the CBO report goes, which I've read, what it doesn't take into account are the millions of otherwise purchase insurance. So some of the figure that you mentioned would include Americans that would fall into that camp. I also believe that the alternatives that are provided through the American Health Care Act, which is the Republican plan as it stood a couple of weeks ago, providing for the expansion of health savings accounts, refundable tax credits for individuals who purchase their health insurance on the private market, and other aspects are a big step forward into creating a healthcare system that works for more Americans. I appreciate that you think it's a joke, but when I talk to constituents around the district who have been greatly impacted by rising premiums, who can't afford good health insurance, this isn't a joke. Healthcare is not a joke.
No, it's not.
So that's why I appreciate that Republicans are focused on this issue, and I will continue to.
They're focused on taking it away.
In the weeks to come.
How can you afford those savings? Can you share that?
Ma'am?
My name is Jamie Garwood. I'm from Fort Wayne, and my question is actually about the budget related to HUD. But before I ask that, I just want to remark about the gentleman who said we were not invited here. We were not given an opportunity for a public forum in Fort Wayne, so. My question regarding HUD is that I want to know if the Trump budget proposes an estimated, significant cuts to HUD that would result in probably an estimated $99 million cut for Indiana. That includes housing, and as well as about $60 million budget cut in community development block grant dollars that go to homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, food banks, literacy programs, significant resources that our state needs. And so what I want to know is, one, have you spoken with housing authorities in this state to fully understand the implication of those cuts? And then secondly, do you support those kind of cuts that completely undermine the foundation of social supports in our state?
Those are great questions. The president submitted his skinny budget, which is his first budget proposal, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, which is sort of a baseline to start from. If the president doesn't pass the budget, the Congress passes a budget, and the Congress will come together and debate the priorities. In this country, though, we have a $20 trillion national debt, and we have to take seriously the spending that occurs by our federal government and try to rein in the size and scope of the federal government. And in my view, as a conservative, we need to empower the states and allow the states and local government to do their job and get the federal government out of the way. So I will continue to take that subject under advisement and learn more before we vote on the budget, but I also understand that with a $20 trillion national debt that we have to make significant changes to the spending in this country.
We can't fill that. Our state can't fill that hole. And I think that's what I hope that you will listen to state leaders about this, because our state and our philanthropic community cannot fill that kind of hole. And yet you want to put more and more money into defense spending, that when there's a significant amount of loss that happens in the defense spending budget, we don't know where all those dollars go. There's an incredibly amount of wasteful spending in the defense budget.
Yes.
Stop illegal foreign wars.
My name is Risa Vandenberg. I'm a constituent. We met briefly at your office one day when we were doing your Facebook tour. I appreciated the chance to say hi to you then. I'm from Fort Wayne, but my husband and I owned a business here for 20 years, and he employed about 12 people, created some jobs here in Decatur. My question is a little bit different from that. I know that no constituents asked for their personal internet search information to be sold.
You received a $12,100 donation from your mic's off.
You received a $12,100
donation from the telecom industry, and I would like to know what constituents you were representing when you gave that.
Because it wasn't us.
I would say what happened in the later years of the Obama administration was a dual track of duplicative set of regulations by the FCC and the FTC were created, which, by the way, during the Obama administration, they carved out Google and Facebook and said these regulations don't apply to you. And what the bill did that we passed a couple of weeks ago out of the Congress, which was widely supported by most members of the Congress, would have struck down a number of those regulations while protecting your privacy and empowering the private sector to set up privacy tools of their own. And I believe that it was the right thing to do to support the legislation.
The corporations.
Not at all.
It wasn't us.
Okay. Well. Chris, who's next?
How does us sharing our information? You didn't answer the question. How does sharing our information with the big
Oh, it doesn't share. The legislation I voted for doesn't share your.
You cut off the law that prevented it. That's the same thing
That's not
as
true.
sharing.
I would challenge you to read more about it because it doesn't do that.
Congressman that proposed it got
My name is James Curtis Carey. I reside in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I am indeed one of your constituents. My question is also related to the proposed federal budget. Do you, Congressman Banks, support defunding the National Endowment for the Arts and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting? And if so, why?
Well, I don't know. But with a $20 trillion national debt that my daughter's generation will inherit because of the massive amounts of spending in Washington, D.C., I think we have to take a strong look at where our federal tax dollars go.
The reason for that
He still has the floor.
$20 trillion is illegal foreign wars.
Right on.
no approval by Congress of military ventures overseas, and there's no reason whatsoever to expand the defense budget.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I did introduce an authorization of military force resolution to call on the Congress to step up and take its constitutional role to debate the future of our war against ISIS, to talk about the nature of our conflicts like what is occurring in Syria, and for the Congress to step up and have a national conversation, discussion about the military strategy moving forward. So I did take leadership on that, sir, to call for an authorization of military force, and I'm proud that that resolution that I've introduced has received a great deal of support from other colleagues, from the administration, and others. I hope that we'll take it up and debate it.
John By from Portland, and I'm not here with a group or anything representing anybody but myself. So I was a former General Electric Motors employee, and I would like to know what your stance is on NAFTA. And I have another question. I worked in Fort Wayne, the BAE Systems, and I'd like to know your opinion about whether or not sometime in the future the Air National Guard will get the F-35. We were told that they would get it. And NAFTA, you might say, the people here in Decatur were a victim of that. And that type of experience you go through can change an individual. You have to remember that the one thing you have to believe in yourself, because nobody else will. And you have to realize that the situation was not something that was a reflection on you. It was a decision that was made higher up. And I guess I'd like to know your views on NAFTA. Do you think it should be repealed or renegotiated? And how about Canada?
Okay, there are two big questions and issues that you raised. The first being NAFTA, and probably more broadly the free trade agreements that I believe are important. I believe fundamentally that in this global economy that we live in today, and the businesses that exist in Northeast Indiana that depend upon a global economy, that our free trade agreements are important. Now, specifically about NAFTA, I grew up in a family with a dad who worked at Dana, and in the 90s heard about NAFTA every day as a four-letter word, and we've seen some of I think the consequences that we've seen over the years are a lack of enforcement of some of our trade agreements. So our new president, has taken an interest in NAFTA, and whether at this point it doesn't appear that he's in favor of fully repealing NAFTA, but perhaps renegotiating certain aspects of it that haven't been good for America. I would like to see more about where that conversation leads before I take a firm position that I support that or I don't support it, and learn more in the months to come about where the president intends to go with NAFTA. But fundamentally and foundationally, I do believe that free trade is important to Northeast Indiana and our complicated local economy. As a district that I represent, by the way, which has the most manufacturing jobs than any other congressional district in the country, right here in the 3rd District of Indiana, that comes from the medical device companies, the orthopedic companies, automobile manufacturing, a number of other unique companies that we have spread all over the 3rd District of Indiana that rely on the ability to trade and open up foreign markets. Also, by the way, our farms and the rich agricultural base that we have in Northeast Indiana depends upon a global economy and the ability to trade and open up markets in other countries as well. So I never want to infringe upon their ability to open up new markets, but I think that the president, as he takes upon his goal to look at ways to renegotiate some aspects of NAFTA to make it fairer for America, I'll wait and see what he comes up with and and learn more before I take a firm stance. Now, as far as the 122nd goes, this is my #1 priority as your congressman. It's one of the reasons I wanted to be on the Armed Services Committee. I also serve on the Tactical Air and Land Subcommittee, specifically because of the impact that that subcommittee has to the 122nd Air Guard Base, which currently flies the A-10, which is an incredible platform, a closed air support platform with nothing else like it in the military that provides the closed air support that the A-10 does. But the A-10 is on average 27 years old. It's not going to, the program's not going to last forever. In fact, the Air Force over the years has been trying to kill the A-10 program and retire all of the A-10s in the fleet. They didn't promise the F-35. They promised the F-16 as a stopgap, perhaps, to future efforts to pursue the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter in Fort Wayne, which I support. But I also support, in the meantime, pushing the Air Force to keep its commitment to put F-16s at the Air Guard Base, which is a longer-term program and platform that can continue to fly in Fort Wayne and provide the unique opportunity that we have in Northeast Indiana for our men and women in uniform. So those are issues that I'm personally and specifically working on and will continue to work hard on throughout the duration of my term in office.
Karen Summers with Community and Family Services Head Start. We are serving 5 of your 6 counties, locally, Huntington, Adams, Wells, Jay, and Blackford. We also serve Randolph. We have an enrollment of 314 preschool children, ages 3 to 5, serving the lowest level of income, the 100% level of poverty and below, plus homeless, foster children, TANF, and SSI recipients. We just want to share with you that we're opposed to block granting of the Head Start program for a number of reasons. First, school readiness is very important in our program, but it does not only occur in the classroom. Family or whatever individual is raising a child is what they do at home is extremely important. And our concern with block granting is that the only focus might just be a classroom and not the comprehensive program that Head Start provides to a family. So there's a huge piece about family engagement, health care, nutrition, things that we work with the family to set goals and so that they continue to boost their child's school readiness. We invite you to Huntington, Bluffton, Bern, Portland, Hartford, any number of our classrooms so that you might have the opportunity to interface with our families. Our biggest concern is that a program that's been in existence for 52 years, been in existence since 1965 in all 50 states across the nation. Block granting Head Start would make that program run 50 different ways rather than one different way. That diminished fundings to the program because it stops at the state level for their portion of the funding to run the program would diminish services to families and children across the nation. Again, the focus just on school readiness and not the comprehensive model that Head Start is based on. We also are concerned that funding would completely go away if it were taken to the state level, or it would diminish to the point that many families across the nation are not getting what they need. And we all know that that population is the most critical. The 100% of level.
And I appreciate what you do for early childhood education, and that's why I'm taking an interest in this. It's also after state legislators that a block grant would provide an exceptional opportunity for the states to administer more early childhood education programs. It doesn't mean that Head Start would be cut one bit. In fact, I would prefer, as a federal lawmaker, that those decisions be made by your state lawmakers who are closer to you on how best to administer early childhood education. That's why I have supported a block grant. I appreciate your perspective, an alternative.
We invite you to our program.
I'd be
We're
happy
close
to
in
visit.
Huntington, we're close here in Decatur, we're close in Bluffton.
You got
and
it.
you'll have the opportunity to see the children, see all the all-inclusive services, and interface with our families, and that they can share with you how great the program helps them from home to school and forward in their future.
Good. I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Fort Wayne heard word about this, and you questioned someone else's interpretation earlier about the House Resolution 230 that had to do with ISPs, being able to, internet service providers being able to share your information, and you said that it did not have anything to do with what you voted for didn't have to do with sharing information, and was just unduly regulations that you wanted to get rid of, but and said that we should look at the text of it. Well, I looked at the text of the House Resolution 230, and it just says that it's to get rid of the FCC regulation protecting the privacy of customers of broadband and other telecommunication services, which is a title, so maybe it's misleading. Well, I looked at the Federal Register for that specific thing, and I looked at the summary for it, and it says that it was just expanding the privacy requirements of Communications Act of 1934 to the internet, to broadband internet access.
So it expands the privacy protections of the...
Yeah. And this is what you voted, the regulation you voted to get rid of would be doing. It says adopting the original rules you voted against, it implements the statutory requirement that telecommunication carriers protect the confidentiality of customer proprietary information, focuses on transparency, choice, and data security, provides heightened protection for sensitive customer information, it requires carriers to provide privacy notices that clearly and accurately inform customers, obtain opt-in or opt-out customer approval to use and share sensitive or non-sensitive customer proprietary information respectively. And it goes on from there, and I just don't see why you voted to get rid of this rule.
Like I said a minute ago, you had the FTC and the FCC, and you had both of them regulating the same industry, and what the bill did was it struck down the FCC's ability to regulate, and the FTC will continue to regulate. I believe that the private sector will rise up and answer the call from our privacy protections as well. And that's fundamentally what I believe, and I voted for it after reading the bill as well. It's a good step forward in striking down a duplicative nature of regulation that isn't needed.
What was the regulation from the FTC that it was duplicating? Do you know?
Well, like I said, it didn't apply to Google, it didn't apply to Facebook, two companies that were carved out of the legislation when it was passed.
So if you don't think it's good enough, then we pass a bill to expand it to Google and Facebook, not get rid of it?
I'm a conservative who believes that less regulations and empowering the private sector to rise up and provide those same regulations is healthy. The FCC's regulations will remain a powerful and appropriate regulatory body to ensure that there are protections.
So how do you know that the FCC will...
Ma'am?
Thank you. My name is Sue, and I am one of your constituents. And I really thank you for spending time with us today, Representative Banks. I'm here on behalf of my grandkids. I'll try to get emotional. Jack, Julie, and Georgia. The bill H.R. 861 to eliminate the EPA is sitting in your committee right now. You've already voted yes for H.R. 1430 and 1431. Both bills are anti-science legislation and helps to erode science and strength of the EPA. Delegating research standards to the states could degrade environmental quality. Without clean air, water, land, there's no future for anyone. How are you planning to vote on H.R. 861?
Well, I don't believe that we will ever vote on an effort to eliminate the EPA. I don't think that's a serious conversation that's occurring in Washington, D.C.
Well, it seems to be. It's supposed to be December 31st of next year.
It's not. There's not a hearing to eliminate the EPA. There's never been a. Well, there are thousands of bills that are introduced in Congress. Doesn't mean that I'm going to vote on all 1,000 of the bills that are introduced. I don't know that I believe that we have to entirely eliminate the EPA, but I do think that giving authority to IDEM at the state level and empowering states and local government to do their job rather than the federal government would benefit all of us in the room.
How are you going to protect national parks?
What about the Paris Agreement?
And national parks.
National parks are in between.
So it depends on where you live, if you have clean air or water.
No, it depends on who you live next to.
Yeah.
Because if the other state doesn't protect your water, if Michigan doesn't protect Lake Michigan, then you have to.
not going to convince you that I'm right. You're definitely not going to convince me after researching the issue. So we can sit down and talk
Facebook
about
isn't an ISP. Sir, she has the floor right now.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here, and I'm here representing myself, but also feel like I'm representing my ancestors that came over on the Mayflower. My family, some of my family was from this area. We were some of the originating people to come to Indiana. And what I want to talk about is democracy and how people have felt like our vote has been taken away by big money interest, where our vote no longer counts. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was the Federalist Papers, if anybody is on top of that. I didn't know about that before I came across this a couple of days ago. They were papers that were sent to support the Constitution that wasn't completely accepted by all the states. And they were written by John Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. And what I want to read from is by Madison, who not only was the 4th president, but was considered the father of the Constitution and the father of the Bill of Rights. And what this was trying to do was work against the alleged tendencies of the few to be elevated at the expense of the many. One person, one vote. Who are to be the electors of the federal representatives? Not the rich more than the poor, not the learned more than the ignorant, not the haughty heirs of distinguished names more than the humble sons of obscurity and opprobrious fortune. The electors are to be the great body of the people of the United States. However, 2 of the 4 richest people in this country control much of the financing for campaigns, making each of those 2 people make $41.1 billion each year. In 2012, between the 2, gave $400 million to campaign funding, and in 2016 gave $900 million, excuse me. One of those groups that they represent or give money to is Americans for Prosperity, which just was in Indiana, saying they were a grassroots organization giving money for people to have 50% off their gas, paying the gas tax, which I believe is a way just to ingratiate themselves as looking like they're, local people. So what I'd like to talk to you about is groups like this and the dark money. 80% of Republicans and 80% of Democrats want campaign finance reform. For one person in this country, and I think it would make you guys' job easier because you could really work for us rather than work for you. Got to take funding from these people to get elected. And I was not fair to you. It's not fair to us. So I want to know, will you support 80% of the Republicans and 80% of the Democrats in campaign finance reform? Will you get one vote for one person? Will you vote for that?
I support efforts to make the process more transparent and have supported those efforts. Right now, you can go on the internet and read the campaign finance reports of any elected official, but I think that there's more that we can do to make it more transparent of where money comes from that is spent on the election process. So I would fully agree with you on that note. That there's more that the federal government, the state government, local government can do to provide more public transparency in campaign spending.
Would you vote for reducing the amount of money that people can donate?
I mean, that's a vague question. Reducing the amount that they can donate per person. Right now, an individual can only give $2,700 to a federal candidate.
Yes,
corporations.
Corporations and individuals can.
So, folks, my job.
I support efforts to create more transparency in the system. I think we're on the same page when it comes to that, and look forward to those efforts to do so.
So, folks, my job. I am the district director for the congressman, and I have to keep him on time. We want to really thank all of you for coming out. We appreciate your opinions, your thoughts, your ideas, and look forward to doing this again sometime soon. So, thanks so much.